Hello everyone. Today we are going to introduce one of the most ancient and holiest city in the world, Jerusalem. Jerusalem locates between Mediterranean Sea and Dead Sea and is now divided into New and Old City of Jerusalem. The Jerusalem has an area of 109 square kilometers and a population of 839,000. 70% of the population are believed to be Jewish, and 30% are Arab. The origin of the old city of Jerusalem could be as long as BC 3000 year during early Bronze Age. It has always been a place of controversy on politics, history, and religion. During the first half of the 20th century, Jerusalem had long been under the rule of Palestine. After the formation of Israel in 1948, the state invaded into West Jerusalem. In 1967, the state again annexed East Jerusalem. This marked the beginning of the fight for the Holy City between Israel and Palestine. Hebrew and Arab are the common language in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is known as Yerushalayim in Hebrew, which means City of Peace, and as Al-Quds in Arabic. There are 4 quarters: the Christian, Muslim, Jewish, and Armenian, and 7 gates: Dome Gate, Zion Gate, Jaffa Gate, New Gate, Damascus Gate, Herod Gate, and St. Stephen Gate in the Old City. The Temple Mount is the significant location of the 3 monotheistic religions, Judaism, Muslim, and Christianity. This was the site of the Jewish first and second temples, but the temples were destroyed and only the fundamental of the Western Wall was left. The Temple Mount is now built with Islam architecture. It is also one of the important places of Christianity. We will focus on architecture and language of the city. First, we are going to visit the 6 sacred architectures in Jerusalem.
The first area you visit is Jewish Quarter. It locates in the southeast part of the Old City. You can enter the Old City through the Dome Gate, which is closest to the quarter. The population of Jews is about 660,000, which is the largest one among the 4 beliefs in Jerusalem. In this area, you can discover various tangible remains of its dramatic history whenever you walk. You will visit 2 historical spots in this quarter, which is the 4 Sephardic synagogues and the Western Wall. The first destination is the 4 Sephardic synagogues. With most Muslim enforced religious humilities as society's characteristics, Jerusalem's Jewish worship was centered on Sephardic synagogues in the city. The first one is Yochanan Beri Nakai Synagogue. It was built in the 17th century and it is located in the ground floor of the site. It is the largest one among the 4. The second one is Eliyahu Hanafi Synagogue. It was built in the 16th century and it was built in a typical Ottoman style. It is the oldest one among the 4. The third one is Istanbuli Synagogue, which was built in 18th century by Turkish Jews, and its design was Ottoman style too. It had been used for holding important inauguration ceremony. The last one is the Kahal Zion Synagogue. It stands between the space of another 3 synagogues. It was once the women's section of the complex due to its high arches and tiled floors. Besides, it was also used for the celebration of Jewish holiday. The next destination is the Western Wall, which is located in Jewish Quarter too. The great ancient stone is the last remnant of Jerusalem's temple. When you stand in front of the wall, you may see that some youngsters are celebrating their coming of age. Some couples are taking photos before getting married. Some religious believers are praying for their sadness or worries. As you can observe, some people also write down their wish on a paper and place it within the space between stones. Therefore, the wall is always surrounded by people. The Western Wall was one of the 4 walls Herod the Great built to support a temple, which was about 1.5 million square foot. There were many destruction and expansion of temples in King David's dominion, but the wall, which is located near these temples, has never been destroyed due to its divine presence. When Jerusalem was divided in 1948, Jews were separated from the wall. Until the Six-Day War of 1967, Jerusalem was reconciled. As a result, the wall became a representative of glorious past and an area where people can release their emotions. To Jewish people, the Western Wall is the most sacred place for their spiritual consolation. After having a glimpse of the historical places in Jewish Quarter, it is the time to explore the new area, Muslim Quarter.
The Muslim Quarter is the largest quarter in Jerusalem. It has an area of 31 hectares and 22,000 citizens resided here. It has crossed the St. Stephen Gate, Herod Gate, and Damascus Gate. There is the ancient market at the center of the quarter. Some Christian sites, such as 7 stations of the cross, are around the corners and alleys. At the southern edge of Muslim Quarter, the Dome of the Rock, one of the holiest architecture, is situated on the Temple Mount. Named Qubat Tosakra in Arabic, the Dome of the Rock was built between 688 and 691 CE by the Amid Kuriya Tiabdime Lebin Madouan. It is the shrine which the Prophet Muhammad in Islam ascended to the heaven, and also the place that Abraham, the progenitor in Judaism, intended to sacrifice his son Isaac to God. The dome has adopted the Byzantine architectural traditions. It is a mark of the early Islamic architecture that thrived through the centuries. The shrine is a regular octagon topped by a gilded wooden dome. It followed the style of Byzantine religious buildings, martyria, which are shrines for memorizing the saints and holding religious events. The diameter of the topped dome is approximately 20 meters. The dome is connected to the octagonal arcade with 24 piers and columns by a dome with 16 piers and columns. A stairway links the surface of the rock to a natural cave below it. Sides of the arcade are approximately 18 meters wide and 11 meters high. The entire shrine is filled with windows. It is decorated with marbles, mosaic, and metal plaques. On the walls and ceiling of the Dome of the Rock, mosaic contain no human figures or animals. Instead, vegetative scrolls, motifs, Sasanian kings with vessels and winged crown are presented. Arabic religious inscription, which is approximately 240 meters long, including the earliest surviving examples of verses from the Holy Book in Islam, Quran, is also presented. The inscription illustrates God and the sacred prophet Muhammad, as well as Mary and Christ. This conveys that Muslim also embraces the traditions of Judeo and Christian, as well as other pre-Islamic civilization of the region, For instance, the Sasanian Empire that won over Arab armies. The rock at the center of the shrine is believed to be the location that Muhammad ascended to heaven. The rock is surrounded by two ambulatories. The central row of columns, which were composed by 4 piers and 12 columns, supported a drum that transitions into the duplex dome more than 20 meters in diameter. The piers and columns were made with marbles in the lower part, and decorated with mosaic on the upper part. Sunlight from the windows demonstrates the ethereal atmosphere in the dome of the rock, and illuminates the glittering mosaic and jewels. Although vast construction of the holy shrine is preserved for the past few hundred years, a few restorations were carried out to extend its longevity and gain attractiveness. In the 16th century, Suleiman I requests the replacement of exterior mosaic with colorful ceramic tiles. 4 centuries later, reparation of ornaments was completed and the symbolic golden dome was attached. Next, we will walk through the Christian Quarter.
Now we are going to introduce the Christian Quarter. The Christian Quarter was built around the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. It is situated in the northwestern corner of the Old City, extending from the New Gate in the north along the western wall of the Old City, as far as the Jaffa Gate. The Christian Quarter contains about 40 Christian holy places. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre in this quarter is one of the holiest places of the Christianity. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is a significant focus for Christians all over the world. It is located on a site which is central to the story of Jesus' death, crucifixion, and resurrection. Almost all early Christian architects borrowed heavily from the Romans. The principal feature of Roman architecture was the arch and the vault in domed roof construction, and we can see this feature on the church. In front of the church is a spacious courtyard, where pilgrims gather during big celebration and Christian processions throughout the year. Entering the church, just a few meters from the entrance, reaches a stone of anointing. This is actually a slab of red stone where Jesus' body was prepared for burial. All believers who enter the Church of the Holy Sepulchre will kneel in this place with great reverence. On Good Friday, oil and rose petals will cover around this slab of marble. A stairway on the right, just inside the entrance, leads to Calvary, and this is the place where Jesus was crucified. The chapel is the Catholic chapel of the Nailing of the Cross, which is station 11 on the Via Dolorosa. If we walk to the west from the Stone of Anointing, we arrive at the focus point of the Holy Sepulchre Church. This round area of the church, which known as the Rotunda, is surrounded by massive pillars and surmounted by a large dome. Underneath the large dome is the tomb of Christ. It is just like a little house. This stone monument held together by a steel frame encloses the tomb, where it is believed that Jesus Christ lay buried for 3 days, and where he rose from the dead. After visiting the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, we can find there some special designs in this church, including rotunda over the place of the tomb, the chapel built on Calvary, and the big courtyard. Actually, these beautiful designs are all contains the architectural features of Roman. Next, we will go to visit the Armenian Quarter.
The Armenian Quarter is one of the 4 quarters located in the southwestern corner of the walled Old City of Jerusalem. It occupies an area of 0.126 square kilometers, That's to 14% of the old city's total. In 2007, it had a population of 2,400, 6.5% of the old city's total. So, let's start our tour in Java Gate. The Java Gate, built by Sultan Suleiman in 1538, is located on the west side and is one of the main entrances into the old city, and the only gate on the western side of the old city. Same to the stone used for the rest of the old city's walls. The stones of Java Gate are large, huge, sand-colored blocks. The entryways stand about 6 meters high, and the wall rises another 6 meters above that. Jewish visitors entering the Java Gate were required to tear their clothes as a sign of mourning for the lost city of David. Now, let's go to the Tower of David. The Tower of David is an ancient castle located near the Java Gate entrance, built to reinforce a tactically weak point in the old city's defenses. A museum of history of Jerusalem is located inside the complex. Exhibitions will be held inside the museum. Then, we will go to the Cathedral of St. James. The Cathedral of St. James is a 12th century Armenian church in the Armenian Quarter. It is the principal church of the Armenian Patriarchate of Jerusalem. Resting in the southwestern corner of the old city, the structure is one of the few cathedrals from the Crusade to have survived almost intact. Building activity intensified after the 1840s, and by the end of the 19th century, the cathedral was famous for its architectural ornament and its collection of jeweled vestments and manuscripts. Nestled within a walled compound in the ancient Armenian Quarter of Jerusalem Old City, the Church of St. James is one of the most ornately decorated spaces of worship in the Holy Land. Stone crosses carved in relief on the wall include early Armenian examples of the so-called Jerusalem crosses. Lengths of wood and brass hanging outside the entrance are hammered with mallet to call the faithful to prayer. Costumandra. They were introduced when a 14th century Muslim edict forbade churches to ring bells. The interior, under a vaulted dome, offers a splendid spectacle of skilled altars. Massive chandelier, numerous domes, with ceramic eggs attached to them, painted, carved roofs, inlaid mother of pearl, bronze engravings, and blue and green wall tiles. The marble floor is usually covered with purple, green, and red carpets. Rich vestments, incense, and chanting give the cathedral a mystical Eastern character during services. High-sash windows, oil lamps and candles are the only light source since there is no electricity. Sunlight produces dazzling reflections on the church treasures, but cloudy days coat the interior in darkness. Its architecture and art displaying the confluence of Armenian, early Christian, and Gothic styles.
After visiting the Holy City, aren't you interested in the language utilization in Jerusalem? Do you know what languages are used in this place? Jerusalem has very long history, and it has experienced a couple shifts of ethnic groups residing in the city. In modern history after World War I, under British mandate in 1922, the government implemented the language policy, which suggested that all official documents of the government and local authorities should be published in English, Arabic, and Hebrew. Majority of present Jerusalem residents speak Hebrew and Arabic, which are the official languages of Israel and Jerusalem. A standard language is considered to be an institutionalized norm which can be used in the mass media and language education. A standard language is always a particular dialect which has gained its special position as a result of social, economic, and political influences. How are modern Hebrew and modern Standard Arabic become the official language of Jerusalem? The modern Hebrew is the fourth generation of the Semitic language. It was first developed as Biblical Hebrew or Classical Hebrew, which Jesus used to communicate. Later, in 2nd century AD, Hebrew was reinvented as Mishnah Hebrew with significant difference in grammar and vocabulary. The third generation, Medieval Hebrew, was used as Arabic Hebrew translation. The modern Hebrew, which was revitalized in the 19th century by Eliezer ben Yehuda, has been widely used until modern society. The modern Arabic is descended from a language known in the literature as Proto-Semitic. Modern Arabic is part of the Arabo-Canaanite sub-branch of the central group of the Western Semitic language. In the beginning of 7th century, speakers of Arabic dialects started conquest from Arabian Peninsula to Middle East, North Africa, and Iberian Peninsula. As marriage between Arab and indigenous people increased, population speaking Arabic also grew. In present world, there are lots of dialects derived from Arabic in different regions due to its loose language system. As we all knew the conflicts between Israel and Palestine over the Holy City, the two Semitic languages are still widely applicable in daily life of Jerusalem. The two languages also resemble each other a lot. First, both are written from right to left. Second, they have similar consonant dropping system. However, Arabic and Hebrew have 28 and 22 letters respectively. Pronunciation have changed significantly since the languages experienced few restorations. Let's hear how Arabic and Hebrew pronounce.
فممكن نبدأ مع الأرقام. 1 2 3 4 5
1 2 3 4 5
6 7 8 9 10
6 7 8 9 10
يوفي مش كمان إلا
As a city with two official languages, streets and signs are written in both Arabic and Hebrew. Medium of education include both Semitic languages as well. Nevertheless, schools are divided into all Jewish and all Arab schools. Not until 1984, the students could study together with their counterparts of different ethnicity at the same school. The two languages are also used in daily life, in family, with friends, and also transactions. As we observed, there is societal bilingualism in the city as there is regular, almost daily use of two language varieties comfortably in a wide range of contexts. However, importance of Arabic in Israel is declining. A quarter of the population from the first generation to be born in Israel from immigrants of Arab are fluent in Arabic. Yet, only 15% of the descendants think they are fluent in Arabic, and barely 1% of their children can speak comfortably in Arabic. Similar situation can be expected in Jerusalem. This may be due to the hatred of Arab. The simultaneous bilingualism in the city is becoming sequential or even passive bilingualism. With large amounts of immigrants from Middle East and North Africa, several dialects from these regions were introduced to Jerusalem with their immigrants. One of those dialects includes Armenian dialects.
The Armenian dialect spoken in Jerusalem is highly distinctive. because it was geographically relatively isolated from the rest of the Armenian-speaking world, and Arabic has a significant influence on it. Those Armenians whose ancestors came from Turkey following the 1915 genocide speak Turkish influenced Western Armenian. Let's watch a demonstration of Armenian dialect.
Americans, we tend to kind of bounce as we're speaking, like da 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 da, and we want to kind of skip over some vowels. We want to turn into but in Armenian, every syllable is like equal length. It's kind of just like da 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 da. That's kind of just how they say everything. So like a bad accent would be like if you're saying I understand, you'd say haskanumem, haskanumem. So you kind of like bounce over the second syllable. But a good accent would be like haskanumem, where you have the on that second syllable. Haskanumem, 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 haskanumem. Do you kind of hear the difference? Yeah.